I'm a molecular geneticist and I've been undertaking research for over 30 years trying to track down the genes that play a role in common human genetic disorders and traits. We undertake research that involves looking at DNA to see if there are differences in the DNA from people who suffer from a particular disorder compared to people who don't suffer from that disorder. The research that I undertake mostly focuses on neurovascular disorders like migraine, hereditary stroke, ataxias, that's movement disorders, or epilepsies, and currently we're also looking at concussion. The importance of this type of research is that if you can track down a gene that plays a role in a disorder and you can actually identify who has a mutation in that particular gene, it provides information to the individual. It can help diagnose their disorder, but it also provides information to their clinician, and they can then enable treatment that's based on that information. Diagnostic testing is incredibly important for a number of these neurological disorders because there are different treatments depending upon which disorder it is, and some of the treatments that can be used for one are contraindicated for another. So that's why it's important to target the right treatment based on the genetic information. So we're working with Unrecovered War Casualties Army to try and come up with better methods to identify the remains of missing servicemen. So there are over 30,000 missing servicemen from World War I and World War II, but we're trying to develop currently the best methods for profiling samples that we're obtaining from those missing servicemen, and also developing a biobank of the relatives of missing soldiers so that we can compare the profiles we obtain from them against the profiles to the remains. And I think the most important thing about doing this sort of research is that it does provide that information, and not just to defence, but more importantly to the families. And those families probably want some closure, and this can provide that sort of information. We've been working with a population from the island of Norfolk Island, and it's called a genetic isolate. And in fact, about 80% of individuals on the island can trace their ancestry back to a very famous historical event, and that was the mutiny on the Bounty. That's a really powerful resource for trying to track down genes that play a role in disorders. And so we've been working with the Norfolk Island community for over 20 years now. Our original focus was on cardiovascular disorders and migraine-related disorders. Subsequently, we've gone back for more collections and we've looked at things like bone density in the population. We've also looked at eye disorders like glaucoma. And more recently, in 2021-22, we undertook a 20-year longitudinal collection from the same population, focusing this time on kidney disease. When we originally set up our diagnostic testing, we had a test that focused on 5 specific genes that we were involved in identifying. We now have a panel where we look at 15 genes because we could identify more and put those in the panel we focus on. There's obviously still more that we need to continue to work on and to identify to provide better diagnostic testing. And that's why we work with the populations that we do, the cases, the controls, the families, and with the Norfolk population. As we identify new genes, we can develop better diagnostic tests to match treatment to.